My name is Mikaela Hondros-McCarthy. I am a member of the Sustainability Council in Lowell. For my day job, I'm a finance director at Green Energy Consumers Alliance. We have a Jamaica Plain office. So I guess my background is more in finance and accounting, and then I got a MBA with a concentration in environmental management and sustainability. So I've always kind of been interested in sustainability, and I'm getting more and more concerned about the environment as I learn more things every day. And so that's kind of what got me started with getting involved in my own community in Lowell, where I've grown up with the Sustainability Council. So it's been great so far.
And with that work you're doing, have you guys been impacted by the pandemic? Are you guys seeing different trends right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think like any, if you're not an essential worker, your job has definitely been affected because you are no longer supposed to go into the place of work, into your office. So for us, we've been working remotely, and that's been a challenge. It's hard not kind of seeing people every day. Zoom has been awesome, and other kind of web conferencing where you can see people's faces is really awesome. Thank God we have the technology now to do that. But things like sending checks out to vendors, accepting checks, depositing checks, banking has been impacted. We kind of had to try and start doing a lot of that remotely. We've, just electricity usage, commercial electricity usage is way down. And that's impacted our business. Yeah, I think that we're gonna keep seeing impacts that we may have expected or may not have expected for a long, long time. So right now, I think we're just kind of getting used to things, but we'll see what happens in the weeks and months and years to come.
So focusing on Earth Day, why do you think it's so important that Lowell celebrates Earth Day?
Well, I think it's really important for Lowell to celebrate Earth Day. Any community, I think, should celebrate Earth Day, but especially Lowell and its history. And, we have all these wonderful things like the Merrimack River that runs through Lowell that a lot of people like to kind of get out on, and whether you're walking along it or, kayaking or whatever it is. I think that we have a lot of wonderful natural elements in our community. I think we have a lot of people just demographically that could potentially be really impacted by climate change and maybe not have the resources available to deal with things that happen. So like flooding, we have a lot of renters here in Lowell. If something happens and they don't have renter's insurance or something like that, they might not even have relatives or close people that they know to go and stay with. So they might end up in shelter. So I think when you deal with the socioeconomic effects of climate change, you have to kind of take that into account too. So I think the effects of climate change that could possibly happen would be detrimental to a community like Lowell.
And when talking about those socioeconomic impacts, do you have any documentaries or books or just like climate related, I guess, tools or like activities that you would recommend for others to look into?
Oh, that's a great question. I wish I made a list. There are so many documentaries. That's what I love about this time. We have all of this media companies that are kind of like not freelance I forget what the word is, but independent media companies that put out these awesome documentaries. So you're really learning something new. And every time I watch one, I'm like super inspired. I watched to Grow, actually. My brother, who's also on the council, recommended it to me, and I watched it 2 days ago, and I was like, I gotta go out and start my own garden and clean my yard, and I was like, I'm gonna do that tomorrow, and I didn't, but I'm still inspired to do that because, you know, another effect of climate change is roads and bridges and transportation infrastructure being cut off, and then, you know, what's going to happen with our food supply? How is that going to get to us? So local farms and having your own garden, if you're, you know, have the wherewithal to do that, is important. Another one that really hit me hard is an older one that I'm sure heard of already, is the true cost, and it's kind of the impacts of the fast fashion industry on the environment. And I think when we think of drivers of you know, carbon emissions, we tend to think of things like transportation and agriculture, and you know, our, you know, use of fossil fuels when it comes to those things. But the fashion industry is a huge contributor to that too, and we kind of live in this hugely consumer driven society where it's kind of like more, and fast fashion kind of the true cost made me kind of think of the fashion industry as a contributor to that too. The last one I would say was Cowspiracy. That's an older one too. I really like that one. It made you, it presented really clearly how much agriculture contributes to, and you know, deforestation, and cutting down on your meat intake is a really good idea and a really good way of lowering your own carbon footprint.
Given this year's strange circumstances, I know it can be a little hard to celebrate Earth Day in the way that we traditionally do, but how do you and your family and your loved ones plan to celebrate this year?
I personally plan to celebrate Earth Day and Earth Month by, you know, trying to, since I'm stuck at home all day, trying to kind of research and learn more myself through watching things on my computer or reading books about climate change and the earth, you know, whatever. It doesn't have to be just about the doom and gloom of climate change. It can be about like regenerative farming, or kind of, you know, maybe just watching Planet Earth or something like that, because every time I see something like that, I'm like always filled with this sense of like, oh man, like this is a great home we have, you know. And it really is supposed to be working, like we can be working with it a lot more instead of, you know, throwing all these fossil fuels into the air just because we're, you know, have big businesses making money off of it. So it's like a bittersweet feeling, but kind of, you know, basking in the glory of Earth's wonders through learning about it more.
And this question is kind of along the same vein. So how would you encourage others to celebrate Earth Day this year?
I think it's a great idea to kind of just stop and pay attention to, you know, learn more about it through, you know, reading and all those amazing documentaries we have out there, but also I don't know if it's going to be allowed, but getting outside and or just sitting in your backyard or something like that. You know, spending some time outdoors, I think it does, you know, wonders, like a hike in the woods or just a walk, and like kind of, instead of maybe plugging in some music or, you know, listening to a book or something while you're doing it, just not doing that and just kind of like observing things a little bit more, paying attention to things a little bit more, because things are still pretty good. So, you know, trees are still growing, the grass is still growing. So just kind of taking some time to reflect on how lucky we are that we have water that comes out of our faucets that we can drink, and yeah, places we can go to appreciate it.
That was the last question I had prepared, but was there something that you wanted to say that maybe you didn't get a chance to say, or something that you just wanted to tell people in the community?
Yeah, I mean, I I think that taking the first step to getting involved in your community is the most important one, because once you kind of get the ball rolling and start going to meetings like the 350 Lowell meetings and the Sierra Club meetings, and even, you know, other community organizations, I think Lowell has a plethora of all of these different groups that, depending on what your interests are, can help connect you with other groups. And it's sort of kind of like, once you start, you see how many different opportunities, and then it becomes a matter of how much time you have. So I'd really encourage people that may not have thought to get involved, or may said, oh, you know, I want to try, but I don't know. Just go ahead, just go to one meeting and talk to people. It's a really, I think now more than ever, a sense of community, and connecting with people now that we're shut off and stuck in our homes is more important than ever. So I think it's a great way to kind of connect with other people, and yeah, and I think we have a really great city that we all live in, so with a lot of great people. So I think the possibilities are kind of endless, and I'd encourage everyone to kind of get involved.